live. And for those of you who've been waiting, apologies, but my little one decided that she wanted to do now to first of all have a poo and then not settle. But she's all good now. What was I gonna do? There's a song from GalaQuest I was gonna play. It's a song I always play, and I've completely forgotten what it's called. Oh, Tables Have Turned. That's what it's called. Love this song. Alrighty. Okay, so I thought, well, in case some of you have already seen that, I thought, I used to work at Jagex. I had the ability to talk to people. I have the ability to still know people from Jagex, and I thought, I think it's quite fascinating for those who aren't in the industry, in the games industry, and they might be curious to know how we got into the industry of some sort. So I thought, I'd ask the first person who came to mind. That was Mod Shogun. So he very kindly offered to come on. So we're going to make this stream a discussion about essentially how Shogun essentially got into the industry, how he got to Jagex, how he went from QA to developer, and answer questions along the way. So first of all, Shogun, thank you for joining me.
No worries, no worries.
And I guess the important question is, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad. It's been a good day today. Office party was had to recuperate from that, so it's all good.
Yes, of course, the office party happened. Good. I'm glad. It seemed like it was really fun from what I saw, so that's great.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Shogun's webcam's broken, so he can't join us in a visual representation. So he'll only be via audio, as it were. So it's okay. It's not all bad. It would have been nice to have him on camera, but it's the way it is. So without further Shogun's audio.
Oh, you're really good at doing these puzzles, aren't you?
Hold on.
I'm impressed.
Let me tweak your audio a little bit. There you go. That's better. It's fine. You don't tweak yours.
Okay. So I'm saying your skills at solving this puzzle is quite exceptional.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very legit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm gonna double check if everything's all good on my end. But I think we're okay. So I'm gonna be an absolute sellout and tweet about it and try and get people to come watch and all that stuff.
Oh, do I have to?
You may hear my Facebook going off a little bit as well, and that would be my wife, who's messaging me because she's angry that the darts is back on.
The what is back on?
Darts.
I have no clue what that is.
I just got a comment on Reddit saying, I thought Shauny left RuneScape, or left Jagex. No, yeah, I have left Jagex, but I can still do this stuff, and I thought I have the opportunity to do that with Shogun. Anyway, I'm going to mute my window sounds a second, so we don't pick that up. Okay, so without further ado, let's get this shindig on the way. So first of all, Shogun, I guess we're going to start at the personal level. Are you all good revealing, not your surname per se, first name? So we can go on first name basis?
My surname will never be revealed, that's fine.
Completely fine by me.
That's fine. It's a very Swedish name, it's Henrik. So
you're from Sweden, do you want to go into specifics as where it is, or are you just going to keep it nice and generic? Where you're from?
You have a map, you know where Sweden is from.
But where?
I am from the southern part of Sweden, so some people don't. Cool. Some people, no, that's the wrong spelling, Rubik. Oh god.
Just Henrik, not Hendrik. Just Henrik. Simple as that.
I'm from the very southern part, so some people in Sweden don't consider me Swedish.
Wait, why?
Yeah, it's just a Swedish thing. I don't know why, but I'm apparently Danish to them.
You're apparently Danish. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Oh goodness.
That's correct, Rubik. That is correct, Rubik.
Hendrik. Oh dear. Okay, so obviously, you went into obviously you got into the industry, but correct me if I'm wrong. Before joining Jagex, you're actually involved in some way, shape, or form with gaming. Whoops, great teleport by me.
I've been doing gaming for a long time, really. I started RuneScape 15 years ago, so been playing with that for a while. My first job was as a I was as a PC bang. I rented out PCs for people to play games on. I fixed them. I organized tournaments, etc. on it. So yeah, that's how I made my living. I basically play games for a living. Actually play games for a living for once. Uh, I did that for 3 years. Then I went off to university to study games development. And 2 months later, I arrived at Jagex.
So, in university, when you were doing games development, as it were, so obviously that would explain how you obviously went into the content development part of Jagex. But I mean, is there anything you got up to while doing that you're able to share with us?
As in,
As
well,
in,
what do you mean?
as in projects and stuff like that. Were you doing like? Is it anything that you're able to say that you worked on, or anything like just cool stuff like that? You know.
There's an app somewhere on the App Store that I made.
Ooh.
It's a kids game where you pop a balloon of a bird that flies by. It's a game for toddlers basically.
Okay.
It was during my internship period. As part of university, I had to do 6 months of internship. So during that period, I made a kids game where I did various ones like fit the correct object in the correct hole, and there's a bird. There's balloons flying up as you pop them, and sometimes there was a bird hanging from the balloon, and you pop that, and the bird fell down. Weird stuff like that.
Fair enough. So obviously, you mentioned you did games development in university, but you actually started the Jagex in QA, correct?
Yes.
So
Transformers Universe.
So Transformers Universe, obviously, as a product, isn't managed by Jagex anymore. It's essentially dead as a product. But for those of you who aren't aware of what Transformers Universe is, do you want to summarize what that is very quickly, or do you want me to? It's up to you.
I have to explain it. It's like a part FPS, part MOBA. That is what we're calling it, at least. Where you were big robots fighting against each other.
I think to quote Xmod MMG, I think he defined it as a MOBA instead. Not MOTA. Sorry, multiplayer online. Yes, a MOTA. Instead of using the classic MOBA, he defined it as a MOTA.
Yeah. Something like that.
In a very infamous interview, if I remember correctly. So, you got into Transformers Universe, you joined the QA team, so how did that all come about? How did you even find out about this role? How did you come to joining it?
I was one of the first beta players for Transformers Universe that I found out afterwards. So I was one of the first to join. They had 2 batches of betas for Transformers Universe. In the second batch, I was one of the first ones to gain access to it, and I didn't know that at that point. But I played around and played for a bit. Turns out that I was good at the game, and at one point they released the high scores temporarily, and if I can remember correctly, I had something like 660 kills. And 39 deaths.
Nice.
It's a pretty good KDR going, I have to say.
That's pretty good. So, obviously that was when you played it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, just a question from me. Were you a part of Jagex when you came in for the 24-hour event at Transformers or not?
No, I wasn't.
Right, okay, so some context for some of you who may have watched it or not, back in, I think it was June of 2014, a special 24-hour event live stream took place in the Jagex HQ for Transformers Universe. So the whole idea behind it was to do this big epic event that could really show off the game, and we did crazy stuff such as just playing the game and then having little competitive events. And Shogun actually, if I remember correctly, you were on the players team or you were on the J-Mods team. Remind me.
I want a players team. Yeah. I didn't start working there until September the same year. I literally just finished university when that event happened, so that's when I moved over for that.
Okay. I just realised I've just stood still because I wasn't even playing. I was just listed instead of actually moving around. So obviously, that was. So did you find out you were joining the team while you were at Jagex, or did it happen afterwards?
No, it happened afterwards.
Okay, so how did that come about?
For the play team, or
well, first of all, how did they get in touch with you to come be a part of the player team? And then when we cover that, we'll talk about how you were offered the role.
Oh, I think it was. I did some streaming back then for Transformers as well.
Really?
I was one of. Yeah, I did streaming for Transformers. It's clips on my channel. See if I
Oh,
can find it. Oh god, let's see here.
trip down memory lane here.
Oh, you're very. I can't stand my own voice as well.
Yeah, you're gonna go
Is
find the
that
clip.
it?
I mean, do you still stream?
Yeah.
I mean, do you still stream?
Sometimes, very rarely.
Okay.
Ah, is that it? I think this is the most iconic one. I have 34. Wait, 56 views on this one for 19-minute clip. Amazing. Oh, I'm so good at this game.
Pop it in my chat.
I don't know why.
Pop it in my chat. So people don't. I mean, it might be a bit of a surprise because some people actually may have never seen this before.
That's the one.
There you go.
That's my personal Twitch, so.
1v3 and I win. That's about as simple as it's about as simple as it
I
gets
know,
when it
right?
comes to the title. I'll tell you that. Okay, so obviously you were streaming. So who reached out to you? Was it like just someone from the community team, or like was it like how did that come about?
I don't know. I was like I was basically talking to everyone in the development team at that point, since I was active in everything really. I was speaking to designers, developers, and there was, I think it was called Wireshark, Mod Wireshark.
Oh man,
The
I
guy
know.
was
Yep, I
talking-
know. Wireshark, formerly
Yes.
well, currently known as Jerome,
Yes.
who was a part of the events team, if I remember correctly. So that does make
I
sense.
think so, yes.
Well, it doesn't work at Jagex anymore, but was part of the events team back in the day. So yeah, that does make sense. So he messaged you, and then you essentially were a part of this player team. So that was how you got there to be a player. So how
Yes,
did the role come about?
I don't really know. I just finished uni and I wanted to foot into the game industry, and since I had lots of contacts there already, I had the qualifications for it. Maybe slightly overqualified as well, but it's game development and QA are vastly different. I decided to just, it's like spreading your wings, right? I tried everywhere, searched for jobs in Sweden and both in UK, and I got offer there, so I moved over here. Since I've been playing RuneScape for so long as well, I knew people from the RuneScape team as well, so it's just the natural choice to go there.
Fair enough. So obviously you joined Transformers Universe as QA. Actually, obviously Transformers Universe. I think back in those days, it was actually a bigger team than RuneScape, if I remember correctly. It was a pretty big team. If it wasn't,
Yes,
it was bigger than RuneScape. Okay. Yeah. So obviously, you integrated into a fairly big team. But I mean, what did you learn from that? Like, was it obviously it must have been a fun experience. But I mean, what did you get from that?
Oh, well, it's so much more than the people realize. Like, even though, like, if I hadn't gone for the games development course, going for a QA, seeing people always thinking like, oh look, it's QA, all they do is play games. But you don't realize it's actually not. You might be in a game, moving your character around, but it's actually not playing it. It's more like, right, there's someone who managed to get out of bounds here on this map. Please figure out how.
Okay.
And then you have to run into a wall for 3 hours straight, trying different ways of getting outside of bounds. One of the best ones, it was a winter map, and there was if you transformed into a car, position yourself on a slope right at the edge of the map, the physics would slide your car slowly down, further than what you could drive actually. So, and then when you got into a certain position, you transform from car back into robot, you automatically jumped outside of the collision box, meaning you couldn't run off everywhere. So there's so much more to it than one meets the eyes.
What do you mean? You just go in and play the game and find the bugs, right?
Yeah, precisely.
Like, I mean,
I think there's actually a really famous tweet recently from Oh, the Outer
Yeah, the
World?
outer. There was an outer. It's actually linked on the Reddit thread that I posted. There's a very infamous Outer Worlds familiar bug, a companion
Yeah,
bug that was
that's the
shared.
one.
Yeah.
There were
So
lots of those weird ones.
yes, an understatement. Alright, I mean, I kind of want to go into the process of RuneScape bugs later on, but I mean, I think it's pretty fascinating to get that out of the way there and then. I think it's pretty awesome. So, you know, you were QA on Transformers. Is there anything, I mean, I know, obviously, for many people who might not know what the game was, but is there anything that you can remember that you're proud of on the time on Transformers?
Working on
Yeah,
Transformers?
from working on it.
Well, I was only there for 3 months, so I can't really say much.
So, by my math, that means you were there from July till June until September. Is that correct?
No, I started in September.
Oh wow, was it?
was
Oh
in
my
my-
goodness, wow. Okay, I didn't
So yeah,
realize.
no, I had the visit in June for
Oh
the
yeah, of
24-hour
course, you're right.
stream,
Yep.
and then there was that was just after I'd finished university. Then I took a small sabbatical to work on some stuff at home and like my own portfolio, and then I started applying for stuff, and then 2 weeks later I got the job.
Oh man,
So yeah.
that's awesome. So a bit of backstory, since we're talking about Transformers very quickly, because we won't be on the topic that long, because your time in Transformers was, I mean, short and sweet.
Very
guess
short.
It's short and sweet, I guess, is the best way to put it. So
Yeah.
when I was working on Block and Load at the time while it was in development, I got moved over to the Transformers team because the community team had a bit of a reshuffle. So I got moved over to the Transformers team, and I tried to figure out new ways to like come up with this stuff. And one of them was obviously streaming. We did a stream on upcoming content, and I believe you were in that game with me on stream, Mr.
Possibly,
Hemrick, if
yes.
I remember correctly, because you played. I can't remember his name, but it was someone who was very like used a lot of AOE effects or DPS effects. I can't remember who it was.
Oh, Swagger?
Yeah, that's the one. There you go.
Yeah.
So that was my personal first interaction with you, as it were. And then, obviously, Transformers as a game was shuttered, and that meant at the time that you didn't have a role at Jagex. So what was 3 months? Obviously, that was it. So you didn't ever leave Jagex. You actually transitioned from Transformers onto RuneScape. That's correct, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
how did that come about?
Well, since we had a bit of the game shut down, basically. Some people went over to work for Block and Load. Some people went over to work elsewhere in the company. Some people found other places to work at, etc. And I had my current place I was staying in for a 6-month contract, so I had 3 months left on that. So that wasn't very fun. So I tried to stick around in Cambridge if I could. And due to my past experience of RuneScape, back then, Comp Cape and stuff like that, still had that back then. So I decided that they were looking for a QA for RuneScape, so I applied for that. And I got the job, thankfully.
So, you joined the team in 2015, correct?
It might have been 2014 December.
Yeah.
It was around that time.
So, it's funny, because you and I have kind of got similar patterns. Like, Block and Load as a game was downsized, and I was essentially made redundant by Jagex in December 2015. I was essentially finding out that come Christmas time, I would have no job. And there was a role on the CM team, and I applied for it, and I managed to get the role just after Christmas. It was a pretty stressful Christmas, to say the very least. But I managed to get the role, and well, the rest is history, I guess, in that sense, because obviously that's where I stayed until I left Jagex. I actually found out I only got the job by literally the skin of my teeth, because apparently there was votes based on who had applied, who was going to get it, who they thought should be there, and I only got there just, I was told. So I kind of took that as a motivation to be like, okay, well, I'll prove, like, I'll hopefully make that like stand out and make it worth, I guess. But you know, it's all about the little things that you find out. It must be so weird yet natural for you to interview Mod Shogun. I mean, it's natural because me and Shogun are really good friends, and I'm genuinely fascinated by his story. And there's going to be stuff I'm going to find out which I didn't know about, so that's what I very much look forward to. So, alright, let's go to 2015. Late 2014, but into 2015, you just joined RuneScape. You are on the QA team. Which team did you go on to first? What was your first project?
My first project was a Christmas event.
Christmas 2014. Was that the
yes.
sled events?
I don't know. I remember there was a big boss snowman that was walking around the place, and you had to fight him and you got a reward.
Oh, yes, I know the one you're referring to. Okay, cool.
It caused some funky bugs. So
go on.
It could transform players into like baubles and boxes and stuff, and it could also place down a giant present, and you had to jump into his present to not take damage from his attack. Yeah, the Snowverload, I think it's called.
Yeah, Snowverload makes sense.
Yeah,
so
and you jumped into the present to avoid taking damage. Now, the thing was, we placed down the present, you jumped into it, you jumped out of it, the attack finished, the present went away, and when the present disappeared, it also deleted all of the blocking under where the present was. So if the present landed near a fence, you could walk through the fence. We were walking the boss from Varrock to Lumbridge, I think. And on the way there, near the cow pen, he placed down the present, and the cow pen's blocking disappeared. So I was wondering how a cow was outside the pen walking around, and then I discovered that there might be looking like there's a fence there, but there isn't actually one. So that was the first ever project I worked on. But that was in the so-called release team. And,
so that's when obviously when everyone who joins QA initially tries out in the release team, right? So to get them stuck in.
Yes. After that, I moved on to the ninja team.
Oh, yep. What a team! So ninja team, obviously. Oh man, I can only imagine what the team was like back then. I mean, I imagine it's quite different many years ago. Or was it? Like, what was the team back then, if you can remember? You have to remember everyone.
What do we have? There was Mod Hunter, Mod Pie. I think Ashes had just left. There was Mod Ryan was on there.
Yep.
And Modana, is that her name?
Yeah, you're right. It's Modana. That sounds like a hell of a team in its own right. My goodness.
So yeah, it was like the OG ninja team.
Oh, I see. So you were there at the very, basically the starting formation of the ninja. Oh, I see. Wow. Okay, I did not know that.
It wasn't like I came in at the very end of the OG period.
Okay.
But so yeah, I joined the ninja team as QA, along with Mod Ryan. And then after that, Mod Ryan got a better offer, so he moved elsewhere. So suddenly you had a 3-week-old QA working alone on the ninja team with 3 experienced developers.
So we should mention, obviously,
very stressful.
Back then, this is when Ryan was QA, was he not?
Yes, precisely.
Yeah, so obviously people associate Ryan with being a content developer, because obviously that's what he is now. A senior content developer, I should say, but back then he was a QA. So that left poor little Henrik on his own. Bless him.
Yes.
So are there any projects you recall from the OG Ninja teams that you're proud of, or like being a part of? There must be a few.
People hate this one.
Go on.
Lava Strike Worms. I was part of that. So I'm one of the reasons that I'm one of the last defenders of never putting them elsewhere in the free world. It's me and Mod Pie that keeps them in the wilderness. There's also a funny bug with that. So the lava whip.
Oh God, yes.
You can drag a person.
The spec attack of the labyrinth whip,
Yeah,
right?
it
Yep.
drags a person towards you. Of the
Uh-huh.
So no, the one has that spec attack as well, where it sucks people in if you're closer than 7 squares to it. I think it will suck you in under it, and then jump up and attack you. If you're further away, it will dig towards you. But this attack, that when it sucked you in, if you happen to die the exact moment where it did the suck attack, you would die. Items will drop on the ground. You will spawn in Edgeville, and you see Edgeville for 1 tick, and then you would fly across the entirety of the world back to where you died.
Oh, that's superb. That is actually incredible.
So you die, and then you go back. You're like, oh, there's my killer again, and my stuff is on the ground. How lovely!
Oh wow, that's incredible. That oh man, so that was caught. Was that a live issue, or was that caught, or was that caught before it went
I
live?
think that one went live. Yes, that's just it had to be extremely tick perfect. That you had to die in this exact moment. So it happened to very few people. But yeah.
Sounds amazing, though. I mean, we've had. I'm sure we'll get to it, but me and you have obviously dealt with some pretty incredible bugs
Oh yes.
over the
Good
years.
fun.
We'll get to them obviously in due time. So obviously, 2015 Ninja Team. So you were part of them first, but then how did that go? Where were you moved to next?
Where did I go next?
Getting him to test his own memory.
Dukes?
Oh,
Dukes
the
of
Dukes. So
Scrumbridge?
the Dukes. The Dukes was the Dukes was the first team I joined as a CM. So this was yourself, Mod Cuppa, Mod Raven, Mod Liam, Mod Ashes, Mod Niels, and Mod Wing, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
And
Oh, and Mod Luke F.
Tony.
Oh yes, and Mod I can't remember his name. But yes, you're right.
Yeah, precisely. Neither can I.
But yeah, I remember that actually very well. The first team I joined as a CM team, and
What was my first project?
the
Probably was like Death Rework.
Death
I love the
Rework.
map.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a project and a half right there. So
So yeah, I worked on Death Rework. I did the Seren quest.
so yeah, you did what? So the Light Within, or Within the Light,
Yes.
one of the two. I can't remember how it goes, but the one that came out in August 2015, I believe, if I remember correctly. That introduced light prayers and stuff like that, right?
Yes, and then I also worked on a quest which the working title before we selected something was a massive spoiler to the quest itself. So as you, this is gonna be a spoiler warning to you all, by the way. I'm sorry, but if you haven't done this, it's 6 age and all that stuff, so it's so inconsequential. But the quest Heroes Welcome wasn't called Heroes Welcome at the beginning of production.
Okay, what was it called?
That quest name was just called Death of V, and that's what we called the quest in-house. That was the working title of the quest.
I mean, that kind of
like...
it kind of does the job in the name.
Yes. So
wow.
that's the working title of Heroes Welcome, the Death of V. And me being a massive fan of Fremenix, I wasn't much fan of this quest. And that was the first project I worked on when I joined the Jukes team.
Oh man, I did not know that. I mean, I've been a part of obviously when the Dukes made quests when I was there. There's been some pretty glorious things that I've seen and been a part of and all that stuff. But I mean, well, that's
Kindred Spirit was one of them.
Kindred Spirits, Elegy for the infamous torture scene that got taken out of the game.
No, the speech the Raven wanted to do, that I put a stop to.
Why did you put a stop to that? So you need to give some context.
It was a very emotional, depressing speech
So,
the player did,
for
and like,
context, when the players gathered everyone before they go and attack Nomad's palace, I guess for lack of a better word. Obviously, you can do your speech, you can choose your dialogue. Raven, being Raven, he came up with some unique dialogue that Shogun vetoed because of its demotivating factor behind it. Can you remember anything that it said? It might be hard to remember, but is there anything that you can recall from it? Oh God, I
I
hope so.
can't remember.
Oh man.
It wasn't like a 5-minute speech he had written up. It was just demoralizing and depressing.
Oh no, I remember. I remember some of it actually. Just to come back to it, I think it was something like, I know we're all going in, but unfortunately, some of you will die. Most of you may die actually, but the main thing
Yes.
is that we do something about this, something to that nature. And I remember it so well now. Actually, it was incredible. I thought it was amazing, but I can understand why you may want to have had it taken out. Oh dear.
What else did I work on?
Were you involved? See, with No Man's Allergy, I'm gonna just go through the game update list a second, see if I can recall anything based on what we worked on.
So after Elegy, I had a love for Nomad, since it was one of the first bosses I did on my personal account, at least. That felt like
I know
a
it.
really proper,
I know where you're going here.
good.
So hold on, I want to take a step back a second. Something you haven't
Right.
mentioned, which I'm surprised. Raptors Challenge, high level Slayer mobs. I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah, that's coming later.
What do you mean? That's 2015. We're going back in time, otherwise.
Really?
Yeah, that's
We're going a bit all over the place, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we can talk about your passion, I think, in this one. So, obviously, you mentioned Nomad's Elegy came out. We had Tap back in the day, so what came from that?
So I wasn't allowed to make Nomad Elegy Nomad Boss hard, since we wanted people to actually be able to complete the quest.
Naturally.
And yes, so when we made the quest, we could make it slightly hard at least. But we couldn't make it too hard since we don't want to be able to complete the quest. So during my spare time, I decided I'm gonna make a boss that I feel is hard. So I started fiddling around with the attacks of the boss, changing things around, and just making it slightly harder. And out of that, we got Hard Mode Nomad. It was just something I was fiddling around on my spare time. It wasn't planned to be a release or anything, but I just made the boss harder for my own, like learning how the combat system works. And someone had seen it and picked it up. I thought that could be nice. We can make that an update.
I think it's worth mentioning. Mod Ashes, I believe, was the person who picked it up. So he does. I think Mod Ashes was kind of a mentor to you when it came to that, if I remember correctly. I mean, am I wrong in that? I think I swear if I remember, that's how it went.
He helped me out with the chest. That was about it.
Oh, okay.
But Ashes made the original boss. So, but yeah, when I started in QA, I had Ashes and Pi help me out learn the ropes of RuneScript. So it's them two, and they had a very peculiar way of teaching you. They made it embarrassed for you to go and ask for help and try to figure out your own, which in hindsight was a great idea for me, at least. Works perfectly for me, but for other people it might not work so well.
I mean, but, I learned RuneScript at the beginning back in 2016 from Mod Krista and Mod Raven, and I learned from Raven's technique of talking to an inanimate object to help figure out issues. The rubber ducky method, I believe he called it, or something to that nature. That's how I learned from it. And I mean, I thought it was ridiculous at the time, but in retrospect, yeah, it did help.
Oh, if you go and maybe when I dev nowadays, I will talk to myself as I'm doing stuff. Since it helps you go through the logic of the flow as you writing it.
Yeah.
So just by reading it might not be enough to see the problem. So reading out loud while reading as well is perfect. Yes, Cyril.
So,
It's the best thing ever.
oh god, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, we're talking about obviously how you made your. Was that your first piece of content in the game, or did you do stuff
Ah,
before that?
technically not. I made one piece of content in Ninja Team.
Go on.
I made so you can chip
You made what?
tablets.
Oh, you made the chipping
I made it.
tablets.
I made the you ship your house teleport tablet to teleport to Prifdiners. That was impossible in the launch of Prifdiners, since the house portal was over at where the Dungeoneering clan portal are at the moment.
Mhm.
He started off over there. So, but then we later moved the house portal to Ifil, and at that point, I made it so you could ship your house portal to go there.
Nice. What champion?
So that was my first official content I put in game.
I mean,
After
hey,
that, yes,
you gotta
it was
start. You
no
gotta
mythology.
start somewhere. Hey, my first piece of content I put in game was turning everyone into well, the broken heart scenario. So the littlest thing in the world in the context
Yes.
of things. But okay, that's awesome. So we talked about. I want to go back then, I guess, to high level Slayer mobs. So I know the Dukes were a part of that as a project. So how was that as a project?
Oh, that was a fun one, since it was based on player ideas, all of them.
Rune Labs, correct?
Yes, Rune Labs. So we were using Rune Labs, like, they were giving us, like, a concept of the mob, and then we had to do, like, the mechanics and the balancing, all that stuff of it. And we were told that it has to be a very hard monster. So what we were told. And I live by that principle, right? I went full in when it came to that. We wanted to be rewarding, but hard, and I think we managed pretty well with it. Camels were, of course, due to the mechanics that were requested from a player. I think it was Sirius Koi that won it.
Yeah, it's a serious koi.
Yes.
Yeah.
So some mechanics were decided by the Rune Labs as well, so we couldn't change those.
Wow. Okay.
Hence why, yeah, I'm sorry for the camels. That wasn't actually my fault.
Just pass the blame.
Yeah, what? When the Rune Labs, they said they had to have illusions, so we had to make illusions.
Oh man. Okay. I think you can figure out why I've asked you about high level Slayer mobs, because obviously I'm coming to undoubtedly your favorite NPC in the whole game.
Oh yes,
Like
that was a really fun thing to work on.
so,
Since we were developing them, the lovely Ripper Demons, and at one point we decided, well, you can just run in circles now, so it's not really funny. You can just kite them. So let's make them teleport to you if you try to run away from them. What's with those hand gestures?
because I've been running around a Prif and the bloody clue is all the way down here. Anyway, go ahead. That's why I didn't say anything, because I didn't want to interrupt
Yes.
the flow.
But see, if they just teleport to you, they wouldn't really do anything, right? Since you keep on running and you'd be faster than them anyways. So we punished you for running by applying slaughter on you. And we all know how slaughter deals a lot of damage when you move.
Oh
So-
yes.
That's how we counter that. And since one of the things we were told in Rune Labs was that Ripper Demons should deal they will deal more damage the lower HP you have. So Ripper Demons now deal more damage for lower HP you have. We also had the fact that we liked that they weren't aggressive unless you were damaged. So that was also added in. And we did various things of like the insta-kill jump and the spinning. I don't know what to call it. When it dies, it spins around.
The spinning attack. That's just what it's called, right? So
yeah, we did a lot of like testing on the monsters and viability of them, and how would a player go about killing them, not just let's fight it fair on, like what dirty tactics can be abused to make it as easy as possible. And then on the release, I think there was a few of us just standing outside of the Ripper Demon cave, just counting the amount of graves just
There
piling up.
was a funny, if I remember, there was a stream I remember watching. This is when I was trying to learn RuneScape and trying to make sure that I came across really well in my CM interview at the time. If I remember, the whole gist of this was there was a stream with a camera inside the caves, and you could just see people constantly dying. To that nature, anyway. Rubik said that Ripper Demon bug on release, enter it, instantly die. What was that?
Alright, so it wasn't that you entered instantly you died, it was that if you had been in the cave beforehand and you teleport out of safety because your HP was low, the demon didn't forget. so when you came back, the demon was like, I remember you. You were on low HP before. I'm gonna attack you. So then all of them attacked you as you entered the room.
Oh man, that's super. That's actually amazing. It's tragic, but it's also quite amazing. Whose fault was it? Was for the infamous Barry the Destroyer? That's Mod Stu, I believe. Mod Stu, you can
I wouldn't fault anyone for it, really. I know how the bug happened. I can't really blame anyone for it. It was basically if you got the Rune Dragon down to the last phase, you know, it lands and then
yeah.
then it turns into like a berserk phase. The longer it stays in that landing phase, the more damage it will deal. The problem was that damage wasn't capped. So there was this one player who had been fighting a Rune Dragon. They either died or had to teleport out in the last phase. And then the dragon was like, well, there's not anyone more to fight. I'll heal up to full and go back to phase 1. But the damage scaling didn't stop. So it was just walking around there on his own, being aggressive and racking up damage percent. And then you entered again, and he one-shot you.
Jesus. Ah, fun, but also quite tragic in the same time.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a second. So we'll carry on with your journey, as it were, as we move on to 2016. But I know we kind of covered one quest in 2016 already, but that's fine. So I'm gonna just grab a couple questions that I got from Reddit. What was the one bug you honestly didn't want to fix due to how funny it was?
Oh.
If there are any.
So there was at one point I didn't fix a Ripper Demon bug, not because it was funny, because it made Ripper Demons easier. So people were struggling with Ripper Demons, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I intentionally left a bug in that made it so that it didn't always do its death jump when it was supposed to.
Oh, really?
So, yes. So before I did the fix is done now, so because after we nerfed them I decided it was time to make them slightly more harder. They had a chance to not do the death jump when they reached a full bar, so I kept that one in even though I knew there was a bug, just so people could kill them slightly easier.
Someone thought it was honestly an intended feature to keep you on your toes, which actually, when you think about it,
it wasn't, sadly. But yeah.
Huh. Okay. What's the sneak? I mean, you talked about a sneaky bug in Transformers, but I mean, what's the sneakiest bug you've caught, and how did you do it?
Sneakiest bug I've caught.
I mean,
there's been too many.
I mean,
like
there's
a lot of them.
We had the infamous.
There's so many bugs before.
We had
Fingers Live, right?
I mean,
just look at the Seren Crest, right? I think I was putting like 600 bugs before that went live. There's so many weird things going on. So there's too many sneaky ones that were caught before going live, you know? Since if they were really sneaky, then it's hard to find them.
I mean, we had the. I mean, we had a few ourselves. We've had like the augmentation duplication bug, which I guess you could consider be very sneaky, depending on your definition of it, maybe.
Oh yeah,
You know, there's stuff like
that went
that.
live.
Oh yeah, that went live. Of course it did. But luckily, only one person did it, and the moment they found out about it, they told me, and then I told you, and then we were up about 3 a.m. Good times.
Yes.
As we were with invention, but we'll get to invention in a few minutes because we've got invention was the first time I really got to meet and speak to Shogun, and there's a funny story that came from that. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So what else we got? What do companies like Jagex look for when applying for a QA role? If you know, I know obviously it may have changed a
Been
little
a
bit.
while since I played for QA, so
Yeah.
experience always matters, right? If you work in a previous games company, that's gonna weigh a lot, depending on your experiences. Playing the game and knowing the game helps. I'm not gonna say it's a massive part of it, but it helps. The more experience you have the game, the better it is. What else could it be? Well, I had my interview 5 years ago from now, so it's slightly different for me, I guess. It's also your analytical mind, attention to detail is very important, and also your personality.
Yeah.
Everyone works in a team, right? You don't want a person that can't work in a team joining the team, so to say. So it's
Well,
various amounts of things, but yeah.
yeah, because obviously, you know.
You don't have to.
Oh, go on.
You don't have to be a UK citizen, Rubik. I'm not one.
There you go, Rubik. How about that? But yeah, I mean, to your point, on the whole, you know, interaction perspective, like you will be working with a team, well, multiple teams as QA presumably, because you know, you're going to be talking to a lot of people. If there's a live issue, you may have to speak to a developer you've not spoken to before. So you know, you've just got to be you got to be someone who can obviously keep cool, but at the same time, you know, have that kind of rapport with people that you're going to meet and so on and so forth. Because that's kind of like, it's kind of how my approach was when it came to like CM. Obviously, there were people who I'd spoken to who were developers. I'd never spoken to them at all at the time until said bug came up, and it was different. But you have to put yourself in that position. I mean, a Jagex anyway. That's from personal experience, but I guess it can go
Yeah.
both ways. Um,
I moved that crate for you.
Yeah, you did. The hide hole crate, thank you.
Yes.
I mean, I would disagree, Nate. I don't think you can still be critical and can still be hired. I mean, if you're being critical, it depends on it depends on what you're saying. You can still be critical on your criticism, but be constructive. So the definition of, in the case of Rubik, I mean, that shouldn't stop him being hired, in my opinion. But I mean, you know, at the end of the day, sometimes you have to be critical to get the results you want. That's just the way it is. You know, you can't sugarcoat it when it comes to, when it comes to content, because everyone who works on content wants it to be the best it can be, just from my perspective anyway. Alright, what was the weirdest job or thing you ever had to do at Jagex?
Weirdest thing I had to do at Jagex.
Yeah, it could be anything.
This year, Runefest going on stage making food. That was a weird one.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could top your weirdest one if you want me to be honest with you. But I mean, are you ready for my entry?
Sure.
So I'm gonna just say it. When you had to acquire some sort of, I'm not even gonna call it food, a thing for Game Blast 2016. I would consider that to be the weirdest thing you've done at Jagex, in my opinion.
I wasn't tasked to acquire it. I came in with it like, here you go.
What? And that's not weird. You came in with buried fish in a tin, essentially.
It wasn't buried fish in a tin.
Okay, what the hell is it? Right, what's surströmming? Enlighten me.
It's fermented Baltic sea herring.
Oh my lord, horrendous.
Yes, I came in a can of it, and said to someone, "Hey, go, there's a Game Blast challenge for you."
Oh, right. I'm gonna pop a link in the chat. Actually, I might see if I can play it on my stream. Give me a moment. I'm just gonna take you back to Game Blast 2016. A very infamous moment in the life of me, where
Oh yeah,
I may have been permanently
I might
scarred
have scarred you. Yeah,
as a
scarred you
result
as well with that, didn't I?
of Game Blast 2016. So yeah, just give me just a moment here, everyone, while I
Poor Alan.
try and get this good. Poor Alan, I'm not being funny. The man's a crazy man. He's used to it anyway. So
He's
yeah.
still poor Alan.
I mean, I'm gonna try and bring this up. So give me just a moment here, everyone. Um, while I try and get this
Oh,
rock and rolling. But yeah, it's I don't know why it's popped up on the live feed already. That's annoying. Excellent stream production from yours truly here.
yeah, of course.
Oh, okay.
You're doing very well at this, aren't you?
Thank you, sir. I don't know why it completely bugged. I tried to edit it, and now my RuneScape's duplicate. Oh, because OBS can't handle two different window captures. Really? Oh my god. Okay. Okay, OBS. Okay, right. Let's try that again. Sorry, everyone. Duplication glitch. Oh dear. I'm very good at this. Right, give me a moment. I'm going to try and fix this again. But in the meantime, some context for you as to what happened. So basically, 2016's God damn it, I'm so good at this. 2016's Game Blast was quite legendary for many reasons. My first Game Blast 24-hour stream, we did so much stuff. We did many games. We did Super Mario Kart Racing or something to that. I can't remember what it's called specifically. I'm just going to link the clip because I'm tired of being a really crap production person. So just go watch that clip whenever you can. And that was the day I got permanently scarred, as in my opinion anyway, from that buried fish. It was horrendous. I do not recommend it. The smell is of another level that I can never describe other than I literally felt my nose hairs burn off my face in that. It was absolutely diabolical. Yeah, I consider that to be the weirdest thing you've done, in my opinion. Because
But
who brings
that
that in?
wasn't part of my job.
Who brings
That
it
was just
in?
me bringing in.
No, but why
I
would
was
you
running
bring...
for the fun of it.
Why?
Because it was Game Blast, and I wanted to have some fun with Alan.
God. And I paid the price for that one, didn't I?
Yes, you did. That wasn't part of my plan. That was just extra benefit.
Appreciate that. Alright, I'll ask one more. Excuse me, and then we'll get going. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Hopefully still working on RuneScape. It's something I enjoy doing at least, so...
Okay. I mean, it's fair. I mean, there's nothing wrong with aiming for that. I mean, obviously, we're developing more awesome stuff, presumably. Obviously, we'll get into your path of content development as time goes on. So, let's move into 2016. So, after High Level Slayer Mod Creatures, was it the quest you worked on after that? The one that we've talked about, Nomad's Elegy? Was that your next project as a team? Because that came out in February of 2016, if I remember correctly. Let's have a look. Elegy was... Yeah, February 2016, so that makes sense. Oh, yes, of course, and you did Sliske Scoreboard. How can we forget that?
Oh, yes.
Sliske Scoreboard. So we want to let's talk about Invention then, shall we? So, Invention was the first time that myself and Shogun really interacted with each other, and it was the day after Invention's release. We had a cavalcade of issues happening in the next, those next 4 to 5 hours from the moment it took place. So I'll give you the backstory to the first 2, and then I'll leave it to Shogun to describe the next 2, because that's when him and Mod Curse came in at around about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, because they realised something doesn't seem right here. So, when Invention came out, we had the item XP for your armor and your weapons. The item XP was bugged on Jellyfish, big time. You you could actually gain a massive amount of item XP on jellyfish, and people were obviously using this in the runs to raids, and they were getting themselves some pretty crazy gains. That was escalated by Mod Stacy around about 8 p.m. on that day, and then was hotfixed just immediately after that. Then, as I got ready to go home, I thought I'd refresh Reddit just to make sure everything's all okay, and then I see this video. This video is someone who has killed someone else in the wilderness, and on killing them, they've disconnected. So then we had a bug where if you killed someone in the wilderness, it would disconnect you for killing them, which was fun to report. It was the first time I've written an escalation email for RuneScape, and that was the first time that I had done that, and then that was fixed. And then Shogun and Curse were like, something's not right. We're gonna come in and just have a look and make sure everything's all good. And then what did we have next, Shogun? Can you remember?
It was the repairing armors, I think, was it?
Yes, it was.
So
yes,
during
it
the
was.
day, we had discovered a bug as well with it. We thought we had fixed it, but then right before I went home that day, I saw a bug about it that is still happening. So I went to speak to Mod Stacy about, like, I thought we fixed this already. When was this fixed? And turns out the timestamps were showing that the bug could still be achieved. So it was, what was it? If you had
it was just anything. It was just like,
you had to be no, it was very specific. You had to have a
yes, I remember.
A piece of broken or just damaged normal ports armor, and then in the first inventory slot, and then in the rest of the inventory slots, you put in augmented ports armor. You then went to your player and house and tried to repair the unaugmented armor on the armor stand. It then asks you, do you want to repair all your armors? If you said yes, you paid the repair fee to repair all of your armors as they were unaugmented, but it also leveled them all up to like level 14.
And if you hadn't researched item level 15 at the time, it would just cap it to level 10. So yeah, it would basically be, if you would abuse it, you would get instant level 10s on the item XP. Incredibly, the only one person used it, and that was the person who PM'd us immediately about it. It wasn't actually abused. Only one person told us about it. He didn't abuse it. He told us it was an issue, and we fixed it. So that could have been a lot worse. There's no denying that, but he didn't abuse it. So yeah, that was a big one. And then what was the last one? Can you remember?
That was the dupe one, wasn't it?
No, the augmentation dupe. That was later on in the year. That was another day.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. That was way later on. That was like August, September time of 2016, if I remember correctly.
What was the next one?
Oh man. Let me think. We had 4. I remember distinctly we had 4 issues. That's why I remember it so well.
All I know is that me and Mod Curse went in at like 11 p.m. We biked into work and stayed till like 2 a.m. That's all I remember.
Yeah, we left at 2 a.m. Then we went to a kebab van and we bought some kebabs. it was fucking glorious.
Good day.
Do people normally get banned if a first time bug happens to them? Well, there's a difference, right? From what my understanding is, if there's a bug and you happen to do it, that's fine. But if you know it's an intentional bug of abuse and you continue to do it, that's where it becomes really sketchy. So is that right, Shogun? Am I right in that definition?
It's called bug abuse.
Right.
Abuse for a reason, you know?
Yeah.
If you discover a bug, if you discover a bug, it's going to happen to you, right? So if a bug happens to you and you report it and don't do it further and it doesn't you don't gain anything from it, then you haven't abused the bug. If you then, let's say you find a way to dupe something, if you dupe it once by accident, we're not going to punish you and you report it. But if you spend like 2 days duping items and then then don't tell us about it and we find out about it, then you've clearly been abusing something, right?
Let's take an example. January 2016, before Invention's release, we had the infamous oyster bug where you could repeatedly do oyster. Like, it was abused by a lot of people who wanted to obviously benefit from the rerolls of the Oyster, as well as the crazy XP that it gives you for a monthly D&D, not a constant repeating thing. So it was pretty obvious it was a bug, and there was a lot of people. Someone, if I remember correctly, managed to do it 100 times before we hotfixed it. So they obviously got they got a ban for it because it was a straight up bug abuse. Because they clearly knew, no, this isn't right. They keep doing it. So that's just one example of it when it comes down to it. So that's something to be aware of. And yeah, see, all these infamous bugs I've never heard of. You'd be surprised. Like, we've had a fair few in our time, in especially mine and Shogun's time. The first real fun one we have, and I use fun in a very specifically loose term, was and this would answer a question like, what's one of Shogun's favorite bugs he's ever come across? And if I say the word noxious lombo Shogun, you will say what?
Yeah, infinite reflect. It's hilarious.
Go on.
So, wasn't this time when we were watching a movie?
That was the Seren God bow, which
bow.
We'll get to.
Right.
We'll get to.
So I think it was like at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Shauny just randomly calls me and saying, like, there's people abusing a reflect bug over at Duel Arena. So we managed to find out that if you went into an instance and managed to use a noxious
Duel Arena
weapons, well, it didn't have to be Duel Arena. You could do it anywhere.
Oh, well, that's how we found it, right? Because
Yes.
it originated from the Duel Arena.
Yes. In Duel Arena, you can force an instance by going into a duel with enabled summoning on. So if you enabled summoning in Duel Arena, went in there with a friend, dueled them, and you went in Legacy. You could do it in EC as well, but you then summoned a mirrorback spider using special attack, and then you forfeited the duel while the mirrorback was still alive. The mirrorback would never despawn.
Well, he was invisible, but the timer would never expire.
So you had constant 100% reflect whatever you did. And I was just sitting at home laughing at this and how hilarious this bug was.
I took myself I took myself very seriously back then. I was like, this isn't funny. I can't see the funniness behind it. This is a really bad bug. We need to get this sorted. But like looking back on it now, I was just like, man, what an absolute cock I was. Yeah, I can see the funny side of it now. But back then, I was like, we need to do something about this, because I was worried about like how widespread the bug was and like what am I going to have to deal with on the posting side of things. But when I look back on it now, yes, very, very funny bug. I remember it very well. But yeah, people were using it to try and like do crazy. Like someone almost soloed Virago with it, if I remember correctly. They tried very hard. And they almost
people went into Duel Arena with it. So imagine going into a polypore stake, but whatever damage they deal to you, you deal back to them as well. You can't lose, right?
God. Yep, I remember.
So yeah, that's how it was first became known. But it worked with anything you did. It was a good fun bug.
Yeah.
Back then, I didn't have a noxious weapon on my personal account, so I had to ask friends around if I could lend one to try out my bug on the personal account at 2 a.m. At home.
That doesn't sound dodgy at all.
While Mod Hunter was sitting at home at his, trying to hotfix it.
Oh man, Hunter, he's such a legend.
And then Shauny was panicking over Skype as well. It was a good evening.
I feel sorry for Hunter. The amount of times we've pestered him over stuff, bless him. So actually, while we're here, while we're on the topic of I guess the definition of funny bugs, I think we can take pride in the fact we kind of stopped Falador Massacre 2.0, and that's what I'm going to call it, because we could have had that if we didn't reactively saw it. So we were watching. If I remember, the film was called Now You See Me, which was a magic film.
Yep.
And it was myself, Mod Harker, Mod Shogun, and just before the movie got going, I thought I'd check my phone one more time on Reddit, make sure everything's all good, and I just saw on Reddit near this post about I just died in the Grand Exchange to a Saren Godbow. I was like, Shogun, I'm just going to steal your PC a second. So I just thought I'd have one look at it, and I looked, and I was like, this doesn't seem right. And I said, have you got a second? And he looked at this, and he's like, yeah, no, this is a bug. And I was like, okay. So I lived a couple corners away from Shogun, so I essentially said, okay, I'm gonna go on my laptop. So I ran home, jumped on my laptop, and I had my mod account with me at the time, so it made it a little bit easier to try and essentially dive into this a bit more. And then we at the time Mod Hunter again, we pestered him, and Mod Curse jumped on as well, if I remember correctly, and you and him were essentially figuring
Oh,
out
we
how
were
to do it.
no, we were going. None of us had a Saren Godbow but you.
Yes, I did. I had it because I had a mod account. Woohoo.
So I think you dueled me, and we were in.
Oh yeah, we
Camelot,
we were upstairs. We were trying to hide
upstairs
from
in
everyone.
Camelot, trying to hide from players while we're trying out this bug at midnight.
Oh
And
my god.
so yeah, we were standing upstairs in Camelot, trying to figure out, me, Mod Curse, and Shauny, trying to figure out how this bug worked and if we could reproduce it.
Oh my goodness, yep, I remember that so well. And then it led to a very infamous comment on a Reddit post where I'd left a reply saying yes, we'd sorted it, and the people managed to get a rumour going where somehow they thought I had been drinking with Mod Shogun, and I'd been driving home while drinking, yada yada yada. Somehow I don't know how that came about in that scenario, but yeah, that was a fun little one.
I think you said you running home or something, like you were rushing home.
Yeah, I said I was rushing
then,
home, yes.
Yeah, so first, it was a Friday, people assume you were at the pub, and they said, oh, but you can't be driving, you're supposed to be drinking at the pub, so you're supposed to be running then, and then he just spiraled from there. It's absolutely hilarious to read about it.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, we just chuckled about it because we were like, you know what, we're just gonna screw it. I'm not even gonna bother replying because just it was funny about it. And yeah, that was the other one, and then the other one that comes to mind obviously was the augmentation duplication glitch, which was you and Mod Drew, if I remember correctly, 2-3 a.m. trying to get that sorted. But thankfully, only one person did that, and that was the person who PM'd me about it. So no one else actually did it, much to my surprise. So that was a crazy, unexpected surprise, but was awesome all the same. Right, that was bugs. I'm sure we'll end up getting onto bugs again later. Wouldn't surprise me, but that's some fun bugs. So we talked about Elegy, and then oh yes, of course, you guys, if I remember correctly, you were a part of Invention Tools, were you not? Was that correct?
Yes, I did. I was part of that.
So
and Invention Tools, we just did the end of it.
September, that was the pickaxe.
Yeah,
September updates.
Yeah, we just did the testing and balancing and bug fixing on it.
If I remember, that the September month was the month of Jukes, wasn't it? So you had the pickaxe, you had the DK rework, wasn't it? Or DK visual rework and the arena rework or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I think so.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to jump over you there. My bad.
No, and we also did the invention tech trees and whatever items came with those as well.
Oh, the lock melter, the kinetic cyclone, the old DAC coil.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some good items there. I mean, there's a lot of people who use those items still nowadays. So
Did you know that the kinetic cyclone you used to activate from your soul splits? So you put down a cannon, it would heal you as well.
Oh, soul splitting cannon heals. That's quite dirty. Wow.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so we're into 2016. I'm looking at updates. Oh yeah, Kindred Spirits. Obviously, you're involved with as well, right? Because the Jukes did that quest, if I remember correctly.
The what quest?
The Kindred Spirits, the one where the Linza one.
Yes. We did that one as well.
The cannon giving item XP, I believe, was considered a bug because obviously it's not your weapon doing the damage; it's your cannon. And yeah, the old coil healed you. People are saying when you had a blood spell selected, which I guess makes sense. It's obviously blood barrage and stuff that heals you.
I can't remember if that was the case, but I remember they used to, if you had Soul Spirit active and Vampirism more as well, it would heal you.
Nice. So I guess we kind of. I'm just going down the list. Were you involved in the Ark update at all? I know that was a different team, but were you involved in that at all in any way?
Not really, no.
Okay. Halloween?
No, I
That
don't
was
think
the
so.
invention Halloween. Dimension of this. I can't. Not Dimension of Disaster. It was like something of disaster. I can't
No.
remember specifically what it was called.
Yeah, no, I wasn't know one either, no.
Cool. Just going through. Oh yes, of course. How can I forget Endgame? Right. I want to talk about Endgame a little
Oh,
bit.
yes. Oh,
So.
God, no. You see,
uh,
people blame Raven for that mace.
Oh.
They shouldn't. They should blame me.
Okay. Well, I
Because
mean,
we had a massive discussion right before we launched it of should we keep the mace or make it smaller? And I was just the deciding factor of keeping it instead of making it smaller.
so let's talk about some endgame stories. So I made a post. I made a comment on a post a couple of days ago about abuse on JMods on social media. I've mentioned this story on my career stream on the day I left. I was not a fan of the personal abuse that Raven specifically received, because he was the one who wanted to put himself out there and start replying to people about the quest. Because him, Raven, Cuppa, yourself, at the time Mod Days even joined the team to help out a little bit, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And others who've been involved in this quest, this epic quest, the kind of finale to a story arcing part of RuneScape. And all people could focus about was they couldn't complete the maze because obviously they were being kept from their cape as a result of it. That led to Mod Raven getting an absolutely ridiculous amount of death threats, which I'm like, even thinking about it now pisses me off beyond belief, because I feel like there's a certain limit when it comes to criticism. But if you're gonna send a death threat to a developer over a maze in a game because you can't get your cape back, then in my opinion you just need to get better and do it. In personally, because I think that's really silly. Like, I think it's horrendous in their approach, and I was there late with him on that night, and I remember it like clear as day. He just like slammed his desk and he's like, I can't, I'm done like with this for now. And like, I'd stay with him, and then
there was the
like,
mace, and then wasn't it something about a feather as well?
Oh
Like,
yeah, the feather that was needed to. Yeah.
The only way to get a feather of Armadillo was actually by kicking out Armadillo's entourage,
Yes.
and people didn't like that.
Nope. Like, I mean, every time I think about it, it irritates the hell out of me, because Mod Pie had the same situation with Bounty Hunter rework back in 2016. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a fine line between getting your criticism across compared to telling people. Like, I remember there was one particular comment, and Raven actually reminded me of this. He was just like, he's like, oh, you can't forget about this comment. I was like, oh, I forgot about that one, which was like, I hope, and I quote, by the way, this is a message that he got. I hope you lose your job just before Christmas, so it makes it all that much sweeter for me. And like the thought process behind someone who wants to say something so vile is like horrendous. And there is like, it is demotivating. For you can only imagine like what he was going through, like having to deal with that shit, like from a ridiculous comment like that. And while we're on that topic, actually, Henrik, I mean, I'm sure there's been times you've been given shitty ass replies based on stuff that's happened, but is there anything that you can recall that's like really shitty? If you want to talk about that, don't feel like you have to, by the way.
Well, I am infamous for nerfing a lot of things.
Right.
So, there's been a few times when people aren't too happy with things they do. But all in all, you have to think about in the heat of the moment, you will get affected by it. But and it will also affect the way you engage with the community. It will do. But then all in all, you also have to think about the anonymity of the internet makes people do these things.
Yeah, because they're behind a keyboard, and yeah. I know. I know exactly what you mean.
So yeah, it's just very small things going on here and there, And to be honest, on Monday I'm gonna get some abuse for it as well. Some nerfing dungeoneering challenges. So
Oh,
I,
yeah, but I feel like you're not going to get it, not to the extent that we've seen in the past. I feel like you will to an extent because obviously, oh, my
oh yeah,
DG daily challenges and all that stuff. Yes, I do get that. I mean,
it's a bit sad, but it's something you expect out of the role you have.
does it put you off replying to people? Honestly,
Oh yes,
okay.
definitely. Sometimes you don't want to respond due to, you might read a thread and like, no matter what you say will appease anyone, so you just don't say anything.
Or when you want to reply to someone about something else, and then something else that's going on that's annoyed people, and they want you to reply to that. Like, let's take an example. Like, this is an example of something that happened to me just before I left Jagex, where um, there was no communication at the time on the MTX comments in to Parliament, if I remember correctly, and there were so many people who wanted a statement from Jagex, but I was not in a position to do so, and all I wanted to do was make sure I was still replying to players about any bugs or anything they're running into. But anytime I would do that, I would still get people saying, "Well, why are you not giving us a statement? Why are you not replying to this?" Like, and when it gets to that point where it affects you doing your job, that's where it begins to really piss me off personally, because I'm like, I'm not in a position where I can do anything about it, but I still want to help people out who are having issues. So I can only imagine what it's like for you now as a developer, even back then as a QA, but even more so as a developer, that it makes you feel really demotivated to even want to reply on the Reddit, on RuneScape Reddit at all, right?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was worth talking about for sure. For its significance, I guess. That comes with it. Let's go into 2017. I'm trying to figure out were you involved? Oh, the achievements project, the initial first batch of
Uh,
achievements. Do,
oh yes, I was heavily involved in that.
do you want to talk about that at all?
It wasn't really much with it. You just changed how achievements worked, really.
But I guess it also highlights the difference between batch content and obviously a fully released content, right? Because Achievements Batch 2, I think, was a fantastic update when it finally brought together the whole Achievements project, in my opinion. I feel like Batch 1 was great, but Batch 2 really did a great job of showing that. Wait, what the hell?
What are you doing?
What's happened to my game? Everything's sunk into the water. Guys? I don't know why I'm saying guys. What the hell's happened?
It's a random event.
Hold up. Hold up. Has global warming
There's a
kicked in?
tsunami on his way. Yes, you're floating.
Jeez, what the heck? What? Can someone clip that? How did that happen? Wow. That's bizarre, but interesting. Anyway, that's completely thrown off what we're talking about. Oh yeah, updates. So obviously, Achievements Project. Were you involved in any way with Menopause and Magister?
Menaforce. I was part of the Slayer balancing. So I did a lot of the XP balancing for Slayer.
Gotcha. So, see,
yes.
I don't understand. I'm sorry, I'm still a little bit. I'm still. Oh, I need to have a look at this clip later on as to how this actually happened. I'm blown away. That's crazy. Anyway, so had you released any more projects at this time, or was it still the Nomad project that you'd released? If you can remember.
I can't remember.
You can't remember? There must be some.
I've been here for 5 years. I've done a lot of things.
Fair enough. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. 2017 wise, Batch 2 was The Watch. I'm just trying to put teams to content stuff. We'll go into Game Jam and obviously the stuff Shogun worked on in just a little bit. Unless you want to go on to that now, Shogun, I don't mind. Like, I assume people actually want to know what's going on with the Abyssal Creatures. Feel free to abstain from a comment. This is not that kind of stream. I'm not going to pressure you into responding in that regard, so it's up to you.
It's getting closer and closer to release. Let's just say that.
That's all you need to say?
It is being worked on.
Gotcha. Okay, there you go. Okay, so let's go into you then. So we went into obviously your QA still at the time. When like had you ever had this approach to want to go towards development even back then, or like when was that full process kicking into you? Like when was the decision you made to go into development made? If that makes sense.
I can't remember really. It's just well, I did study for it, so it's always been something that's been in my mind, so to say. So I think it was when I first even started, like my first tap time I had. Uh, I went and tried to figure out how Race of the Six works, and since I didn't like that the running out uh, when you run out from after looting the chest, it didn't feel like challenging enough, you know.
Mm.
So I wanted to make it harder. So that was the first thing I ever did in the tap project, just to see if like learn how the code works.
Awesome.
So
I
there's
mean,
been various things I've been doing, like just to try out things and ideas, and that will never see the light of day. So everyone has like their own, uh, so to say, test world, and mine is full of the most random stuff ever.
so I guess I mean you actually made some really cool QA tools in script, right? Like you made, if I remember correctly, you made like a way to reset Raxor's loot, so you could like keep generating loot. So if there was anything wrong with Raxor's
Yeah,
loot, you could do that, and
I
there was stuff like
did it
that,
for
right?
rats and barrows as well. So it's just small tools of QA. We have the infamous Kinder Egg called the Equipper.
God, yeah, but that was your thing,
It
right?
basically, yes, it
Yeah.
just equips you with whatever you want to equip you with.
The Kinder Egg, let's have it.
Yes,
Oh
it's a
dear.
Kinder.
I've never
So you
even
know,
thought about
Kinder Egg
that until
surprise.
just now. Jesus Christ. Alright. So, just double check. Oh, were you involved in this case endgame replayability at all?
Yes, I tested it.
How was that?
That was a nightmare.
I wonder why. Is it due to all the scenarios in the quest, presumably?
Well, thank no, it's because you had set up like, oh, I only want to see these specific scenarios, and just various things like that. And also, thankfully though, it could have been so much worse than what it was. But
Right.
when we did the endgame quest, we had in mind replayability as well.
Ah, nice.
So
Okay.
when we did the quest for first release, replayability was in mind. So the framework was there, thankfully.
Cool. Okay. I'm gonna pick up on this project that I'm sure you had a lot of fun with. Player on Farms.
Oh, that was a fun one indeed.
tell,
It,
tell,
that,
talk to me about Player on
you
Farm.
you did miss one project I did before that though.
Oh wait, hold on. Let me see if I can figure out what it is. Hmm. Go on.
Safe
Oh, safe
crack.
cracking. Oh, apologies. Yes. Okay. So we go from Nomad's boss as a weekly D&D, and then we go into essentially something that, in my opinion, you need to. I know you're so as an FYI. Just so you know, Shogun's someone who doesn't like to take pride, in my opinion, doesn't like to thank himself for the awesome work he's done. I think when it comes to it, safe cracking. Initially, I thought people I think people initially thought it wasn't going to be that good of an update, but in my opinion, I think Safe Cracking has done a really good job as an update. So, that was something. Was that a tap thing? Remind me, or not?
So Mod Ryan is a skiller, so he doesn't do any combat. He's a pure skiller, right? And he only had thieving left for getting 200 million in all pure skilling skills. And he was I was working with him on, well, I was working the same team as him with, was it combat pets,
Hmm.
or was the kill was the slayer the boss log, or I can't, it was something along those things I was working with him on, and he was always complaining about having to pickpocket from certain NPCs. He didn't like it.
Dwarf
So
traders.
I got tired of him complaining about it. So I decided to make my own scaling activity with thieving, and then that blew up.
So it was something you didn't tap, but then obviously Ryan helped you out with it. Honestly, like speaking honestly now, 2 years on, are you happy with? Sorry, 1 year on, almost 2 years. 2 years in April. Are you happy with Safe Kraken as an update?
To a degree, it's the middle section is maybe slightly too generous, but
You're so
they
brutal. You're so
what?
brutal.
Well, at max level, I'm happy with it,
Okay,
but the mid sections are slightly too generous.
that's fair. I mean, XP rates for Safe Kraken are like the top tier for thieving, so yeah, it is pretty fast. But
It's actually not the highest. War Traders trumps it massively.
I thought traders were still outdone by Safe Kraken speed though. When you have all
Nah,
the
you get
stuff.
1.5 million XP an hour traders. They are stupid.
Yeah, but don't you need an aura though, right? Because you're kind of
Yeah,
limited.
we can
But you are limited then, right?
extend it.
Yeah,
It's
but
2 hours and 2 hours downtime. So you go 2 hours
Ooh,
raw traders and 2 hours safe cracking, and then you buy the anti-stun mechanics, and then you go back there again. So much XP. It's
fair.
great.
That's fair. Okay. So player on farm, project wise, how was that?
Well, I joined Play on Farm mid mining smithing. So we started the development of mining smithing for the second time. For the second time on the same project again. So I was working on it then with mining smithing. Then Safe Kraken came up during that time. So I took a few weeks off mining smithing to work on that. And then I just recently finished safe tracking. And then they said, we need some help over at Player and Farm. So if you could join them for, I think it was 2 weeks, that'd be great. So I joined farming Player and Farm for 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And then another 2 weeks. And then another 2 weeks. And then another 2 weeks. And then, yeah, really everything with Player and Farm I had a hand in, really, both XP and growth rates and how things work. I basically tested everything in regards to that. So it was quite a fun project to work on. It was
Okay.
really weird. It's all asynchronous. So some things you can't really test. You can't get a feel of them per se. So you had to like rely on the mathematics and the logic of it.
Sorry, I'm just speaking to the wife. So let's talk about, because I just realised what the time is, and I kind of need to pick up the pace a little bit because my wife's on the way home, and I always like finishing before she gets home and spend time with her. So let's talk about your road to development, if you can. How was that? Like, how did that come about?
Oh, I did. I think because I did so many things in Tap during that time, both Tap and Game Jam and stuff like that. People were nagging at me to apply for content dev instead of being in QA. I think you were one of them as well.
Yep, I told you you should have gone for content developer. I pestered you about it.
uh, so yeah, after a while I caved and I applied, and that's basically it. Really, it's just it's something I've been wanting to do since like what, after a year or so of joining Jagex. It was something I was looking forward to doing. So that's why I did so much tap, trying to improve myself and learn how it worked. So it's something I've been working on for a while, but I never really had the courage to apply for it.
This is what I mean. This is what I mean. This is what it goes back to. I feel like he underestimates himself. I think, you got the job for a reason, and I think you truly deserve that. So you should be proud of the fact that you've made that transition, because I think it's a tough one. Like, Ramen did the same. Ramen moved from QA to development as well.
Yep.
Other people have done it, but I feel like it's not a simple thing to do, and you should be proud of that.
Say it was Mod Hunter done it, Asher's done it, Ryan technically did it,
Easty did it.
Ramen, Issa did it, Ramen did it, and I did it. There's a few of us.
You should be proud of that, honestly. So, I guess when it comes down to it, let's quickly rattle through. So, obviously, your next thing coming up, correct me if I'm wrong, daily challenges on Monday.
Yep, Monday.
So that'll be interesting to see how that goes down. But it looks awesome. I mean, I think you've done a correct. I mean, I had a little sneak peek of it obviously before I left because you wanted to show me it. Bless you. You always like showing me the projects you're working on. I do appreciate that every time. So yeah, I'm hyped for it. I think it's gonna do awesome. But I guess what it comes down to it is I'm gonna give you the platform now to be inspirational. I know you. I know
Inspirational?
you love being
Oh
inspirational.
God.
So, in summary, if you were to encourage anyone who's listened to this to get into the industry, I know we've barely touched on your content development, but your career, in my opinion, has been QA. It's dominated by QA. And I feel like
Oh
you've
yeah,
got
definitely.
so much more to come as a content developer, and you've done some awesome stuff already. So I'm sure we'll chat again in the near future about the awesome stuff you've done. So, if you were to summarize, I mean, getting into the industry, I mean, and people watching this wanting to get into the industry, what would you say to them?
Uh, Passion is important, and for when you are wanting to apply for something, your portfolio matters a lot. To show people that you have done things, instead of saying, "Oh, I've been to university," they'd rather see like, "Oh, I made 3 games." Like just making small mini games, like funnel games, is so much more valuable. Aim for that. Unity is a good stage to do it, unless you prototype really quickly. So yeah.
Thanks, Eric.
No,
I know, I know,
that's
I
what
know, I know.
that when I was in uni, I used Unity as well, so that's why. That's how I made that balloon game, so to say. I made that in Unity. So just make small games, design them, and yeah, that's the number one thing you want to do.
All right, I'm gonna open my 11 master caskets and hope that we can get some sort of drop. I've never had a die yet in my 600 clues I've done, but that's not
I've
exactly on point, is it? So
so you got a hack. I've got in one die actually.
really.
Well, in testing, I
Oh
got a
my
third
god, I
experiment.
got an impetus. Come on. Ugh, you hate to see it.
Why?
Impetus is a misroll, I believe. I can't remember with
No,
what.
that's a staff.
Oh, that's Element of Battle Staff, isn't it? A Typod. Ugh. Oh, look, a Gilded Boater. Thanks. Oh, look, a Dragonstone Dragon Mask. Oh, look, 200k. Yay.
I might be missed something as well.
Charmer Slippers. Right, we're re-rolling. Come on. Ugh, oh, heavy chest. Alrighty. Alright, I think that'll do. So yeah, I think that's
Yes.
everything on my end. But anyway, I mean, I think we could chat. We could have talked forever, but I'm happy with what we talked about, and I do understand and get to everyone's questions. But I hope just from what we've talked about a
Oh, you did
lot.
miss one question.
Go on.
Why do I like banana pizza? That's a question you missed.
Go on then.
Just saying.
Go on then.
Because a banana pizza has everything, right? It's the sweetness of the banana. You have the peanuts for crunch and saltiness. You have the savoriness of the chicken on it, and you add a bit of curry for the spice. Perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Oh dear. There we go. What better way to end the stream? But for those of you, everyone who's watched, first of all, do let me know what you thought of this. I thought I'd try it out as just to see how it went. I enjoyed it, and obviously do thank Shogun for taking his time for this. I thought it was good fun. I had a really lot of fun kind of kicking back and talking about obviously stuff we did, but also learning about how you got into the industry and stuff. So, let me know if you all enjoyed that, and, I could try and look to do more. I can see you may be up for it, but I'll have to obviously ask around. So, yeah, it's been really, really fun. So, as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a great night. Take care, and have a good one.
Goodbye.